Hey y'all, Scarrr here. Oh wait, that's already taken. I had been thinking about some of my favorite platformers recently, and the one I kind of forget about the most is Pac Man. And not that Pac Man, but that Pac Man. And I decided I wanted to replay these games to see if they still hold up. So today, we're going to be looking at three Pac Man World games to see if they still hold up or not. And maybe even one extra game? I don't know, you'll just have to watch to find out. Or skip forward, but please don't do that. So, starting off with this one. I played the PS1 version because of two reasons. One, I don't have a capture card, so I can't get footage of the remake, which I do have. But the second reason is that I'm too broke to afford a capture card. So do me a favor and like and subscribe so I can afford one. Sorry for the plug. But the game's story is nothing too complex for a platformer. Basically, Pac-Man's family, and the guy from Dick Duck for some reason, are planning to throw a surprise party for Pac-Man for his 20th birthday. But the ghosts come and kidnap them with those orders coming from Talk Man, which is a new villain introduced for this game. He just looks like a metallic knockoff version of Pac-Man that totally isn't a ghost, and Pac-Man needs to go save his family who are on Ghost Island. One thing I found surprising about this intro cutscene is the fact that there's voice acting in it.
A slight error on our part. Believe me, it won't happen again.
You idiots! My plans are already in motion! Pac-Man cannot be allowed to crash my party! Find him and destroy him!
From what I remember, the remake doesn't have voice acting or even reuse the voice lines, but I might be wrong. Let me check real quick. Yeah, no it doesn't, which is kinda weird, but okay. When it comes to the gameplay, I could say with 100% certainty that it is the first 3D Pac-Man game. Yeah, I'm not in love with the general gameplay loop in this one, I'll be honest. While the platforming itself isn't bad, I don't think it's amazing. The controls seem very hit or miss, so a lot of the time I wouldn't trust the game to swim how I needed it to or grab a ledge when I needed it to. Like, look at this ledge. How did I not grab it? Like most platformers, there are a good amount of collectibles to grab in each level, but honestly, I found it to be more of a hassle to grab everything in this game, both during my first playthrough and this one. And at a certain point, I just said fuck it, and decided to start speedrunning through the game and ignoring most of the collectibles. And to be honest, I found the game to be way more enjoyable when doing this method instead of collecting every little thing I found. And honestly, with this game, it seems like a lot of the collectibles want you to hit a switch, backtrack in the level, pick up the collectible, and then keep on going with the level. And after a while, it just kind of gets boring, to be honest. Especially when you have to backtrack in the water, because the swim speed is so slow. And it kind of just started to bore me at a certain point. Speaking of collectibles, one of the cooler ones in this game is the Galaga pieces that allow you to enter different levels that are more in line with the original Pac-Man games. I actually like how these use the environment that you are in for a backdrop as them. If I had to complain though, I'd say the speed of these stages are a little bit too slow for my liking, but other than that, there's not much I can say about these sections of the game. It's certainly Pac-Man. I actually really like the environments of the game in general. It seems like they wanted to try to do something unique with them, like having pirates, a pyramid-esque world, a space world, carnival world. Unlike most platformers that start with the grass world, then move to the desert world, and then the ice world, and so on and so forth. And whenever you finish the level, your reward at the end is getting to gamble? It's not bad, but I found it kind of weird that they included this, to be honest. And there's no way to skip it, so I'm forced to gamble, I guess. Time to go for the jackpot, baby. But yeah, overall this game is a pretty good first attempt at a 3D platformer, and my first time playing it was through the remake, which I'd recommend over the original, to be honest. Also, if you're looking to get into these games, just start with this one. It's the least refined out of the trilogy, so you might as well just get it out of the way. One more thing, I have a few more notes about this game, and I can't figure out where to put them, so I'm gonna put them in a rapid fire round of sorts. Starting right now. Their intro animation is a bit weird. This caveman enemy kind of looks like Scarrr. Why is Pac-Man scratching himself during this idle animation? I like this little dance Pac-Man hits during the results screen. When you're on the main menu, I like how to choose the menu option you want. Pac-Man runs towards it. That's pretty cool. And speaking of main menus, I love this main menu. While the first game had Pac-Man running in a void, this one has him chilling in a forest, kicking around the game's logo, and I love it. All while Clyde is freaking out in the corner. Are you okay, man? Anyways, when it comes to the story in this game, it isn't anything complex, just like the first one. The main ghosts decide to go into Pac-Man's hometown and steal these golden fruit, which ends up releasing this guy. His name is Spooky, and let me say, I really like his design. It looks pretty cool, and from what I know, like most of the villains in this series, he never comes back, which makes me sad. Anyways, he tells the ghost to help get rid of Pac-Man and all the people in this town, and the ghosts just agree with him. So each of them take a piece of these fruit, and it's Pac-Man's job to get them back. Like I said, it's pretty simple, but I think the gameplay is where it really shines. Starting off with the first level, which is a hub world of sorts. It doesn't really have too much to do, but it does have an arcade which lets you play the original Pac-Man, along with other games that came out around that time. But you do have to collect these tokens to unlock them, which is really cool. And as a kid, it blew my fucking mind seeing a game within a game. The one thing I learned about the first level is when it's loading, why is Pac-Man running like he's Jay-Easy? Even starting with the first level, you could tell this game is gonna be good. The music sounds great, the game looks great, and I love how the game is actually 3D, unlike the first one, and has a camera that is more behind Pac-Man rather than to the side. One thing I will say is more or less worse than the first game is the mazes. I love how they feel faster compared to the first game, and the environments look great. And I like how when you pick up the Galaga piece, it just instantly teleports you to the maze rather than making you backtrack like in the first game. But maybe it's because the camera is zoomed in a lot, but they feel bigger when compared to the first games. If any of you have played these games, can you tell me what you think? Because I can't tell if I'm going crazy or not. The gameplay is more or less the same as the first. You run, jump, rev roll, butt bounce, and you could kick in the air to stop your rev roll, which I really like. I do feel like the levels are more unique and stand out from each other a bit more. Some of them include your average forest from any platformer, ice level, volcano level, and another forest level. Yeah, it follows more of the basic formula when it comes to the environments, but I think the gameplay of said levels are actually really good, and I think anyone that hasn't played it that enjoys platformers will have a good time. I also think the bosses are surprisingly good also. They all for the most part share the same design, but they switch up the ways you have to approach taking down each of the ghosts, which I think is pretty interesting. Wait, Pinky likes Pac-Man? Has this always been a thing? If there's any Pac-Man fans watching, let me know because I was surprised upon replaying the game to find this out. I was also surprised to find out that one of my favorite levels when playing was Blade Mountain. It kind of reminds me of Ice Cap from Sonic Adventure and those boulder levels from Crash. But unlike those, I really like the sense of speed you can get from those, and the speedruns you can get off this level has to be impressive. If there's one thing I will complain about, it's the fact that I don't like there's fall damage in the game. I feel like it's one of those things that should never be in a platformer, and when it is, I usually find myself being overly cautious and too scared to take risks because I don't want to take damage. But other than that, I think the game is amazing and overall just a fun time. So I'd recommend it to anyone that hasn't played it before. And since I also can't find anywhere to put this, we are going to have another rapid fire round of sorts, starting right now. This is the best Pac-Man model, so I'm glad Sakurai and his team decided to use it in Smash. Thank you! Look at the speedrun tech I found on Avalanche Alley. I know, I'm so cool, right? Dude, this Pinky boss fight hated me. Look at how many times I got hit. Yo, Bandai, where's my Pac Man World 2 remake? You were able to do it for 1, so why not 2? Please! And finally, thank God I'm not a no-death YouTuber, because I suck at this game. And speaking of sucking... Pac Man World 3 is certainly a game. Is it bad? Not necessarily, but it doesn't feel like a Pac-Man game to me nearly as much as World 1 and 2 do. The environments are pretty drab, the gameplay is less focused on platforming and more focused on combat. This one seems to have more of an emphasis on the story, and overall the story is just kinda meh. And even the main menu has less going on compared to the others. It's just a blue sky with the name of the game right there. Anyways, starting with the story of the game, it's Pac-Man's 25th birthday, and Mrs. Pac-Man and Junior decide to celebrate it by making him a cake. When Pac-Man decides to show up, but right as he's about to blow out his birthday candles, he starts teleporting all over the place for some reason, and then he just disappears, while Miss Pac-Man seems to not give a single fuck. Anyway, he gets teleported to some wasteland looking area, and he gets a call of some sort from a ghost. His name is Orson, and he is actually the one who controls Talkman in Pac Man World, which I thought was a pretty cool callback. He wants Pac-Man to help him take back the Spectral Realm, or where all the ghosts live. Its energy is being taken away by this guy. His name is Irwin, and I just need to say this guy is ugly. I don't know how Namco approved this design when he doesn't even slightly blend in with the other cartoony characters in this world. Fucking Paul looking ass alien. But now Pac-Man's goal is to stop Irwin and get back home. When it comes to the gameplay, wait, I forgot to mention the voice acting. Yeah, this is the first Pac Man World game to have full voice acting. And to be honest, I don't love it. I always think of Pac Man as a series that just doesn't have voices, and anytime Pac Man does have one, I always get caught off guard. And while the voice actors don't do a horrible job in this game, I don't think they do particularly amazing either.
My Pac sense is tingling.
I understand why they have voice acting in this game in particular though. The fact that it has more of an emphasis on the story means that they probably needed voice acting in order to convey the story to the player. So I'm not like many others that probably went something like, what were they thinking when they heard Pac Man talk for the first time in a game? But now we can talk about the gameplay. Like I said before, this game seems to be more focused on the combat aspect rather than the platforming, unlike the other ones that were basically just platformers. It feels like it's trying to be a God of War clone, but doesn't have nearly as much ways to fight compared to those games. I haven't played it all, so I could be missing some amazing power-ups, but from what I had seen, you have your butt bounce like the other games. He has power pellets as usual, but now Pac-Man can throw hands. There are some new power pellets, but they're nothing special from what I have seen, to be honest. There's one that you can draw circles around your enemy to kill them, something the Pac Man World devs would shamelessly steal from Sonic Frontiers 17 years prior. An even more powerful butt bounce, and the power to shoot lightning from his fingertips like a Star Wars character. As you can tell, they aren't the most inspired power-ups, and they only place them in specific parts of a level, so I do think the combat gets pretty boring pretty fast, especially with these portals that bring out spectral ghosts for Pac-Man to fight. They're basically your average ghosts that have to be taken out with power pellets. But my issue is that for the most part, these ghosts run away from Pac-Man, and he doesn't really have a reliable way to close in on the ghosts. So right when I'm about to eat one of them, my power pellet runs out, and I gotta run all the way across the arena to pick up another one, and just hope my time doesn't run out, so I don't have to repeat the whole process again. For some reason, they thought it'd be a good idea to have a lot of these when compared to everything else in the game, and they start to get mind-numbingly boring by like the third, maybe even the second time you do it. Like with this game, there's significantly less platforming here, and the little that is here sometimes is pretty confusing or just straight up stupid. Like this example, I needed to get on top of this platform in order to move on with this section, which is fine. The platforming here is fine, but my issue is when I got to the top and wanted to get down from there, the most logical solution is to just Leroy Jenkins myself off this cliff to get back to the place I started at. But when I tried to, the game said, no, I don't think so, and just teleported me back to the top. And I was so confused by this because it's a platformer. Why can't I just throw myself down there? The moment I saw this, I knew the game wasn't going to be great. While I'm here, I'm just going to mention the mazes also. The game brings back the mazes, but this time they are very basic and completely drop the whole making each maze look like its specific area thing from the previous games. I'm not sure if it's because they wanted to go for a so retro type look, but all the mazes I played had this blue background and the ghosts look so basic. One last thing I want to mention is the fact that, from what I can tell, the normal little pellets do absolutely nothing. There's no lives, so they're just here to pick up because it's a Pac-Man game. And I guess they raise your score at the top if you care about that. Overall, I'd say this game is very skippable. Just playing it for this video, I feel like I got nothing out of my 2-ish hours of playtime with it. And it makes sense why we didn't get another mainline Pac Man World game after this. Although we didn't get another mainline game, we did get one more Pac Man World game. But this one was a spin-off, and one I haven't mentioned up until this point, and that game is...
Who's that Pokemon?
Pac Man World Rally. So, have you heard of Mario Kart by chance? Well, this is Pac-Man's take on Mario Kart, and I know the main question on everyone's mind is Pac Man World Rally able to stand on its own 2 feet and not just be a blatant clone like many others? And to my surprise, I'd say yeah. I'd played this game as a kid, so I tried my best to go into it as non-biased as possible. But even when just starting the game, you get this banger of a main menu song. And moving on to the characters you could play, you got some cool ones. Of course you got Pac-Man and all the ghosts, but they also got the villains from the previous games, and a new one, that being Pac-Devil, which is exclusive to this game from what I know, and has only showed up in this game. And they also surprisingly got guest characters in this game from other Namco games, such as Dig Dug Guy, the Katamari guy. An interesting thing about this game is that the PSP version has 2 exclusive characters, one of those being Mappy, which is the GOAT. I'm not sure why these 2 are exclusive to the PSP version, but if I had to guess, I'd say it was probably due to not having enough time to add them to the console versions. I feel like with most knockoff kart racers, the roster is typically one area that is the weakest. But surprisingly, I'd say it's not too bad in this game. And now for the story of the game. It's non-existent. The Grand Prix mode just makes you race through each cup, but from what I can tell, there's no story to be found in game, which I don't mind since, you know, it's a kart racer. When it comes to the gameplay though, I'd say this was probably the most surprising aspect of this game, due to the fact that it's pretty fast paced and certain mechanics that the game has really makes it stand out and tell you, hey, this is Pac Man by the way. One of those being they found a way to work the normal pellets into this game and have them be useful, unlike another game. I'm looking at you. So when you pick up the pellets, it fills this meter at the top, and once filled up, it allows you to transform into this bigger metallic version of Pac-Man, while everyone is turned into ghosts for a brief time, and you are able to eat the other players. I think this mechanic is pretty cool. Not only is it very Pac-Man-esque, if that's a word, but you can actually save it, and if you get a blue shell, or blue bomb in this case, thrown at you, you could activate it using it as a get out of jail free card of sorts. Or if you're falling behind in a race, I forgot to mention this, but you basically get a speed boost when using this form, which I like. I feel like it requires at least a little more thought compared to other racers, that you might rely a bit more on luck. If I had to nitpick something about this mechanic, it would be that I wish every character had their own unique model when they use it, but from what I saw, they all just turned into a bigger Pac-Man. The other main mechanic that kinda took me by surprise is how you access shortcuts in this game. There are fruits in each level you pick up that act as keys, and they open up certain gates that are essentially shortcuts, which I thought was pretty cool. They don't require as much skill as accessing shortcuts in other racers, but I like how they make you pay attention to your surroundings, because these fruits don't just spawn automatically. There are switches you need to find during like your first lap that spawn them in, then you could go pick them up. Some tracks even have multiple you could pick up, such as a cherry and grapes, that allow you to really shave off some time, giving you access to 2 shortcuts in the same lap, which really lets you shave some time off some of these laps. And I found it pretty challenging to pick up both in one lap, but pretty fun. The game overall was surprisingly really fun to play and definitely a step up from Pac Man World 3. But I forgot to mention the tracks, which overall I'd say they're pretty good. They all stand out from each other and are all very colorful, which I really liked. There is even a retro track that is literally just a Pac Man maze, but you get to race in it, which I thought was really cool, even if I don't think it flows the best. I kept hitting walls when I was turning corners, which it has a lot of, although it could just be a skill issue. And I was genuinely surprised by how some of the tracks had some banger music. Just listen to some of them. Overall, the tracks in this game are pretty good, even if there isn't a lot of them. Some of them had a few tight corridors, which I didn't really like because it led to me inevitably getting hit by some items or slamming into a wall because I didn't have enough space to drift properly. But if I had to choose a favorite track, I'd choose Funhouse of Terror. It's a pretty lengthy course, but it's pretty challenging and unique. And the worst track would probably go to Safari Jungle. It's not even bad, it's just kinda boring and has a lot of tight corridors. Overall, this game was a surprise. Is it the best kart racer? No. But I did enjoy my time with it and would recommend it if you're bored and want something to do. And it goes up there as one of my favorite kart racers, along with Sonic and All-Stars Transformed. Seriously, that one is fucking great. Play it if you haven't. Oh yeah, and it does have a battle mode, but it's mid! After replaying these games, the question all of you are probably wondering is, should I play these games? And honestly, I'd recommend playing Pac Man World 2 for sure. But the others, I really liked World Rally, so I'd say yes to that one. Unless you don't like kart racers. And the other two, I don't know. I don't hate World 1, but it feels pretty basic and very skippable to be honest. And World 3 just isn't good, I'm sorry. I tried to like it, but it's just not good. It is such a stark contrast to the greatness that is Pac Man World 2, and instead of trying to improve on it, Blitz Games just said, nah, I'm good, and tossed that formula away in favor of something completely different. But honestly, with the somewhat recent revival of platformers, I'd be so down for Pac Man to make a comeback with a new platformer, and get him out of the platformer graveyard, along with Rayman and Banjo. The next 3D Pac Man game will probably just be a remake of World 2 if we're lucky, but if they were to make a completely new platformer, I'd be so down for that, and I'm curious what direction they take it in. But in conclusion, Pac-Man good. That's literally what I put in my notes. I have nothing else to add, so just like and subscribe please. See you in the next one.